Well, welcome to this episode of the No Neutral Moments podcast. It's great to have you with us. I'm just going to jump right in. My guest is good friend Chris Whitford from straight here from Manhattan, from the great area of New York City. So, Chris, welcome to Midland, Texas.
Love to be
and
here.
to the podcast. Let me just jump right in. I met Chris 6-7 years ago now. It's been a while.
So.
And the best thing to do is just let her explain, okay, she's a part of this organization called Avail. What is Avail that my wife and I have fallen in love with and support? And just wanted to hear to hear their story. And then we'll get into some discussion about the topic that'll come up. So, Chris, welcome, and tell everybody a little bit about what Avail does, who Avail is,
Yes.
and maybe a little bit of your story, and maybe even also, we don't have to spend forever on this, but how Avail got its start, a long time ago, 27 years ago.
Absolutely. So I'm the CEO at Avail, and like you said, we're headquartered in New York City, but we serve women and men, not only in the tri-state area, but actually around the country. Yeah. We walk alongside them as they're in the middle of making a decision about an unexpected pregnancy and how it is that they want to move forward into their future with confidence and with hope. And so we connect them with their own personal advocate who helps to address the complexities that they're bringing to the conversation, saying, I don't quite know what I want to do. I don't know what I can do. I don't know what my future holds. And that advocate provides connections to answer those complexities, to address those complexities. So we're walking with people before, during, and after these decisions into parenthood. We're walking with them as they're pursuing healthy relationships and figuring out what that looks like. And we're walking with people who have experienced abortion. And
so to even press in immediately, when you use the phrase someone facing an unexpected pregnancy, you used the word men and women. And I know that we're not having a discussion about can men get pregnant. We're talking about men who are in a relationship with a woman who is facing an unexpected pregnancy. Tell me, tell our listeners, first of all, let me paint a picture. I think most people, through no fault of their own, think that a woman goes, wow, I'm pregnant. And there's one of two ways they approach it. I'm so excited about being pregnant. I've been waiting all my life to get an abortion.
Right.
What?
Right.
Break that down for us. Break it for your history of how long you've been involved in this and how intimately you've been involved with this. Talk about the emotional journey. I've even seen the emotional map in your walls. Talk about the journey that, as Stephen Covey says, helps us to understand.
Wonderful. Women and men who face unexpected pregnancy, and I use both women and men because, as we all know, a pregnancy is experienced by both the woman and the man, is an experience of the whole person. Body, mind, soul, and spirit. And so the journey of an unexpected pregnancy is actually a journey of feeling and addressing a series of dilemmas that people are facing. So instead of viewing the decision around an unexpected pregnancy as being a binary choice, like I'm either carrying to term or I'm choosing abortion, and that's all those are the choices, and that's my experience of those choices. That's actually not their experience of those choices. Their experience of their unexpected pregnancy is, how do I resolve this series of dilemmas that I'm facing that make pregnancy not a problem, but actually my experience of it complex and difficult. Either it being, okay, I just graduated from high school. I'm going to be the first person that goes off to college. My single mom just raised me. Are you kidding? I'm going to tell my mom that I'm unexpectedly pregnant. The weight that the person feels to actually negotiate the emotional and relational dilemmas that they're facing, right? Or I'm from a Christian home, and you don't get pregnant before you're married. You don't do it in this order. And so
Or they write a book about you called The Scarlet Letter, and then you have to deal with the rest of your life.
All of those things, right? These are real dilemmas. Or my partner, I'm in an abusive relationship, or I can't feed my 2 children, let alone a 3rd child. Or, I just had a plan for my life. I grew up in a family, and you have a plan. You make a plan, you pursue the plan, you follow through with the plan. This fixed life path is how my family operates. I was going to college, the college of my dreams. So unless these dilemmas are recognized, and unless the woman and man has the capacity and the space to acknowledge them and engage around them, explore their thoughts, their feelings, what support could be available to them, unless they negotiate and work through these dilemmas, then abortion ends up being their inevitable choice.
And would you say they're racing towards an inevitable choice because a lack of grace-filled pacing with them through a series of decisions that culturally we made a binary decision, but it's really an accumulation of choices that lead to a big choice,
Right.
so to speak. And I'm not
Right.
using choice politically. I'm saying
No,
the choice you
right,
make
just actions.
about your life, the actions you take. But it's a pretty quick window too.
Very quick.
Well, tell me more
Yeah.
about that.
So research that we commissioned just confirmed our experience in the client room, and that is that women make a decision about their unexpected pregnancy in less than 7 days. And so it's a very,
Stop.
yeah,
They make their decision in max 7 days.
yeah,
Is that from the moment of finding out I'm pregnant?
yes.
Okay.
Now, it's not the moment, say their decision is an abortion. They say they choose, okay, I'm actually going to resolve all this. I'm going to have an abortion. So that decision, they make that decision in less than 7 days. It doesn't mean they're actually following through on the
But they've
procedure.
they've
They made the
solidified.
decision, it's solidified, and at that point, they're no longer open to any outside input. But here's the thing. This unexpected pregnancy touches all of us. This is not a question about people facing unexpected pregnancy who are outside of our communities. They're in our families, they're in our communities, they're in our college dorm room, they're our friends, they're our nieces and nephews, they're our grandchildren. These are our loved ones. These are people in our world, the world that matters to us. And they actually will reconfigure their circles of trust. So they have these relational and emotional dilemmas. The day before they're pregnant, they find out they've got a problem with something. Let's just say an annoying professor or an employer, and there's a whole bunch of people that they talk to about their troubles, and so that would be their circle of trust. Well, what we found out is that people facing unexpected pregnancy actually don't turn to their pre-existing circle of trust. They reconfigure it. They deconstruct their circle of trust.
Why do they not go back to their circle of trust?
Because they're not convinced that they are going to be met with welcome, dignity. They're not convinced that they won't experience shame, judgment. They're not convinced they won't be told what to do from either just a practical standpoint from any side of
They
the
feel like
issue.
they're going to get met with
They're going to
polarities.
And they're going to be told what to
They're gonna
do.
get met with extremes.
Correct.
Rather than this river of life has just gotten really crazy. I need
Correct.
somebody in the boat with me.
Correct.
And the people who were in the boat with them, they may wrongly or rightly assume you're gonna. My boat's already rocking. I don't need you to rock it anymore.
Exactly. Because and listen, think of anything in your life and our lives, right, that we have experienced profound pain over. Now, add an element of guilt or an element of, I kind of helped make this moment, right?
Right.
We are not going to talk to someone from whom we think we're going to get
The answer we think we're going to get that's not going to help me right now.
Exactly.
Right.
We will actually risk solving that problem, experiencing that pain in isolation. That to us is a safer bet than to risk vulnerability and have it be met with more pain.
And so Avail has been maturing into this worldview for 27 years.
Yes.
What does it mean in today's world to say we are after holistic, grace-filled care, even at the risk of possibly being misunderstood a little bit?
Yes. Our telos, like what we live for, is to love our clients well.
Mm-hmm.
And every woman or man who reaches out to us, we have profound respect and honor and believe they're some of the most courageous people ever, because what they've decided is I am actually going to let someone in to my world.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a trust that we are being extended that comes to us at great cost. So it's our call to steward that trust well
Mm-hmm.
and to give them an experience whereby they understand, oh, we're for you. We are unequivocally for you. And so we are going to empower you because we actually believe you're capable of leading your life. This is your life that you've been given, that you're leading. We all need help. We all need support. We all need advocacy. So we advocate for them. We walk alongside them and we help them to first be honest about the complexities, about things that they're facing, whether those are relational or material or economic or spiritual, the whole gamut of them.
You don't just say things like, trust us, this is going to be great. It's going to be hard if you have this baby, and we hope you have this baby.
No,
But you know what? It'll all be fine. It'll work itself out.
because that's a lie.
Right.
I mean, that's a lie, and it's unloving.
Yep.
And I don't know what kind of response that serves, because it's not true.
Yep.
Life is hard. And what I say to my team.
In the unplanned, how else do I say it? In the unplanned, non-planned space, especially. Like there's the married couple who wasn't necessarily planning on getting pregnant, and then one day they go, wow, we're pregnant. And then they will say, well, we'll figure this thing out. But they're not faced with that dilemma. They're
Right.
faced
Except why are they allowed moments
Right.
of fear and panic? Why is the dad allowed a moment of, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this extra kid? Well, if someone's unexpectedly pregnant and alone, and the boyfriend says, you know what, I just don't know that we can do this. And he's thinking abortion is the best solution. And his reason is, I just don't know how I'm going to economically provide for this kid. The response isn't, oh, don't worry about that, we'll figure that out later. Right. The response is actually, oh, wow, you're actually being a great dad already. Mm-hmm. That's what fathers worry about. That's what a good parent concerns themselves with, is how to provide for their kids. So let's talk about that. How might you? So you don't minimize, there's no future, there's no hope, there's no confidence, there's no path forward that either erases difficulty with a mythological, la, 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 everything's going to be fine, or minimizing those things, nor maximizing them to mean everything, because it's about helping clients and people come to a place of possibility and hope
and empowerment.
And that empowerment comes across all, it needs to
and
be
not in a political sense of empowerment, but a sense of created in the image of God.
Yes.
God is still on his throne. The empowerment of grace, the empowerment of hope, the empowerment of God-given opportunity.
Absolutely.
This might be a hard left or right-hand turn. Yeah. I think Avail, I'm nearly 110% sure that Avail is deeply passionate about walking with women and men if they've made an abortion choice. Mm-hmm. What are the different characteristics of dealing with that woman and or that couple? Let's say the woman who comes to you and chooses to give birth.
Yep.
And then what's the struggle of the woman who chooses abortion and is now in a deep place of, more often than not, possibly, you'll have to correct my words, of now it's a different shame, it's a different life, it's a different mindset. What do you encounter in that realm?
So I'll start with a woman who comes to us, and she may have one conversation, 2, 3, 5, 11, and she chooses abortion. So because her experience with us is that we are with her and love her and are really about creating the space for her to reflect back to herself what her thoughts are. So she's experienced us as a safe place. When she makes that decision for abortion, we remain a safe place because she's experienced consistency in this process of being welcomed, of being offered hospitality, of being listened to, of having her concerns carried, of having the burden of her situation been acknowledged, validated. We've probably walked with her and helping her have a conversation with her parents or helping her have a conversation with the partner. We've probably walked with her to help her understand what this actual choice, is. And so she's experienced us already as unconditionally loving her.
Bearing all things, believing all things.
Bearing all things, believing all things, and hoping all things. Correct. And not failing her, meaning being there for her when she doesn't show up and we're here for you, just being faithful, right? Keeping our word, keeping our promises, doing what we say we're going to do. And so that's the foundation upon which she would then make a decision. Oh, I need to now talk to my advocate about this experience. And honestly, every abortion experience is different for every single person. Every choice to parent is different for every single person. We have different circumstances. And so that particular personalized care that addresses what is going to continue even after if the person chooses abortion and comes back, wants to continue a conversation. They're going to experience opportunities to process a whole host of new emotions that appear, a whole host of new concerns that appear. What she can count on not hearing is, I told you so.
Yeah.
Right? What she can count on not hearing is blame. What she can count on not hearing is shame. People need loving support and reflective listening to move along their own journey.
If my memory serves me correct, I don't remember post-resurrection Jesus finding Peter and saying, I told you. I told you when the rooster crowed 3 times you'd deny me. How do you believe me? I don't, am I missing a text somewhere? I don't think I ever found that.
No, in fact, he restores him.
That's right, immediately.
And gives him the greatest commission that any of the disciples received, which was feed my sheep. And so his experience is him who has been forgiven much loves much. And so...
Boy, and that's a powerful statement, because until you get a grasp of how, to use an old theological word, depraved you actually are and dark you actually are, then you only love to that capacity. And if you think you're the easiest person to redeem, then you can't love past that.
No. And that's why, what I say to our team so often is the moment that we no longer trust God for the complexities and mysteries of our own lives is the moment we actually have nothing to say to anybody. Because we share a common humanity with every single person who walks through our doors. Because I'm not who I want to be. I make decisions and face circumstances that I don't know what to do about, that are complicated. I played a role, somebody else played a role, a circumstance played a role. I'm not who I want to be. I mean, for Christians in our audience, like Romans 7 does precede Romans 8. And so that's the world we live in. And so therefore what should we offer others is that which we know God and our community can offer us, which is empathetic love and grace and truth. And all of those things work together. They're not separate.
And there's not a disconnect in my mind between I know what the decision is I want you to make, but that doesn't dictate why I love you and why I work with you. I can, in any circumstance.
I mean, are you a parent?
Right. That's right. I know the decision, and I can even say, I'm pretty sure of what is exactly the right decision for you to make. But force breeds hypocrisy and it destroys people. I have been called to love you in your situation. I'm going to be as honest, as
Right.
straightforward as I can possibly be, knowing ultimately you have to make your decision, but I'm going to love you whether you make that decision or this decision. And that's
Yes.
so hard. Tell me this.
Yes. I mean, we're parents, right?
Right.
So to validate someone's experience, feelings, circumstances, perspectives, ideas, validation doesn't necessarily mean agreement. And love certainly doesn't. I mean, if you're a parent and you have young adult children, you love them with your whole heart, mind, soul, and strength. The whole world can't hold your hopes for them.
Yep.
And you are going to watch them make decisions that you wish they wouldn't make.
Yep.
But to do anything other than to continue to love them and be there for them and let them figure it out is actually to undermine the very process by which they are figuring out life and figuring out, what it means to live a flourishing life.
Yeah. How, as a percentage of people you deal with, men and women? I think people will be surprised by
Yeah.
this.
So if we just look at our website, people who come to our website, 40% of the people who come to our website are men. The majority of our clients are women, but we have male clients. For instance, since we were just talking about after abortion, those who've had an abortion experience and are seeking resolution, resilience, we have men come to us who are not coming with their partners. We actually, to sort of dovetail into a different topic, when the city had to close down because of COVID, we transitioned all of Avail services to the digital space and started really bringing all of our care to virtual conferencing. And as a result of that, many, many people from across the country started coming to Avail and even the world. And we had a British fellow reach out to us and say, okay, I'm not a woman, I'm not American, and it's my girlfriend who had the abortion, but do you have anything for me? And of course the answer was, of course we do.
Yeah.
Of course we do. So
let me take your dovetail. The world changed. You had to pivot on a dime.
Yeah.
So there's two questions here. How has the world changed Avail and what you're starting to discover? And what are you seeing generationally as the world has changed about how we continue to minister in the world of unexpected pregnancies?
Yeah.
Two-part question.
Yeah. First part, I would say, back in 2019, we just were moved by the scope of the need, right? When you start to understand that 1 out of 4 American women, by the time she's 40, will have had an abortion. You're talking about
20%.
25%.
25%.
Yeah.
Better math.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's no different in the church than outside the church.
No, yeah, absolutely.
So you're talking about, we all know someone. We all know someone who's had an abortion. We may not know we may not know them.
You may not know that you know them.
We
but
may
you
not know that
Yeah,
we know
you're
them.
crossing paths
We know them.
more
That's just
intimately than you realize.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. So
Because I can hear people listening going, nope, I don't know anybody. I'm like,
correct.
yeah,
they're not talking to you.
Yeah,
they're
you
not
just don't know.
You just don't know. And so, so we have to understand the pervasiveness of this experience, and therefore understand that when we're talking or speaking or engaging on this topic, we're always being overheard by somebody who's experienced this. We're always talking to somebody for whom this might be in their future. We're not talking about an issue that's just either an academic conversation or political conversation. It's deeply personal. Okay, so back in 2019, the scope of the need, we know it touches just millions and millions of people. how do we reach this next generation? And understanding that the whole world was moving into the digital space, right? We were all starting to Google answers
Sure.
to every question we had, no matter how old we were, right? And so our belief was that to scale Avail's model of care was going to come actually through some kind of digital solution. And so we commissioned research and we built out some prototypes. We started changing some things to our website, our offerings. You can get just tons of information on our website now, blog after blog. And we did that before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
COVID hits New York.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation, but it profoundly impacted everyone at Avail.
Yeah.
And so we're client centered. Everything we do is to serve our clients. And we walk with people through comprehensive wraparound care. Those who become parents or place it by either by adoption or parenting, they become parents. We provide all kinds of
Yeah.
services.
Yeah.
We can go into that in a minute. But so we immediately said, okay, how are we going to care for our moms and dads, so many of whom work in the service industries?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to meet the needs of women making decisions who can't come in and have a conversation? How are we going to make all our pregnant clients, how are we going to make labor and delivery classes available to them? So within 36 hours of the city closing, we actually moved all of our services to the digital space and offered care through virtual conferencing.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened as a result of that, it just sort of proved our idea even faster. Because when we had this idea in 2019, we did sound crazy to quite a few people.
Yeah.
About a year and a half later, I had some people say, "Oh, Chris, you were prescient." That,
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of Zoom meetings later,
Right.
right? We all were like, "Oh, okay, this kind of works. We can."
If you'd have told anybody in 2019, you can work from home.
Right.
It's just a new ballgame.
Correct.
Yeah. Everybody would have said you were crazy. But now.
Correct. Well, what we're finding is that this is Gen Z's. This is how they operate. Gen Z lives in a place of isolation and distrust.
Let's put the parameters on Gen Z.
Yes.
So what parameters would you put there?
I would put there those who were born 1995 and later, 6.
I was going to say
My
6, 7.
oldest is 1990. He's 1995.
Yeah.
And he's a zillennial. I call him a
Yeah.
zillennial.
It's, at best, it's a very, 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 very young millennial.
Yes.
Or an older Gen Zer.
Correct.
Right.
Right. So let's just pause for a second and realize that every single future unexpected woman or man who's facing unexpected pregnancy in the near future are all Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how do we actually meet the needs of women and men facing unexpected pregnancy or those who've had an abortion experience in a manner that Gen Z wants to access?
So how you've been in this 27 years. Compare and contrast. I'm going to leave the middle out. Compare and contrast boomer
Yes.
to Zer in this space.
Oh, my goodness. So boomer, you have a need, you make a phone call. You have a need, you look up information in the yellow pages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, going back to when they would have been unexpected, you have a need. It always involves a person. It always involves some kind of person-to-person contact.
And you're sneaking around.
And
You don't want to. You have to.
Sneaking around. You're absolutely sneaking around. You may reveal this information to one person that comes up with some kind of discrete solution because that's the response to shame is hiding, right? And so, but how do you get that? We just assume it's going to involve people. Gen Z, oh my goodness, they don't pick up, they don't text you back, let alone call you back. And if there's the slightest bit of friction, I mean,
You're ghosted.
And I mean, they're not even going to order a pizza if they have to pick up the phone. They'll be like, okay, well, we won't have pizza, we'll have Mexican. Because I just want to be able to do Uber Eats.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're actually meeting people on Gen Z on their terms, at their time,
On their phone.
in their manner that they want to be reached,
Or
which
their
is
iPad.
on their phone. It's on their phone,
Yeah,
right?
it's a phone.
It's a phone. Then you will not reach them. And so back to what I told you earlier about the 7 days, if you're going to reach Gen Z in the earliest moments of pregnancy confirmation to actually invite them and welcome them into a safe place of support and an ability to process, that's going to be they're going to do that in the place that they feel is confidential, private, and secure. We may laugh. You know, look at all my gray hair. I may laugh that they're going to say that's online. I may laugh and think you don't understand. That isn't as private, secure, as confidential as you think. But that doesn't matter. That's their experience, and they're in. And here's the thing: they're in control. They're not submitting themselves to unexpected emotional pain that they can't control. So they want solutions on their terms at their time. You know. That's what they want in the intimacy of their digital life. That's what they want. So that's why we're seeing. So we'll have classes. So labor and delivery classes, infant care classes. We'll have men's fathers group. We have all kinds of things. We have women's support groups. We have drop in. Come to this meetup because you're in the midst of making your decision about your pregnancy.
It's a digital meetup.
Digital meetup.
Yeah.
They don't have to say they're coming. They just show up.
And they don't have to show their face.
And they don't show their face.
When do they?
After they have their concerns addressed, and sometimes never. But
I've heard that story from advocates who have said, I've never seen her face.
Correct. And
but she still shows up.
Never.
Yeah.
They can put whatever name they want.
They can avatar up. They can do whatever they want.
They can do whatever they want. And here's the other thing. They're in the driver's seat. So like, oops, my Wi-Fi went out. They could disappear from the meeting and there's no explanation they have to give. So all of this is so important. Why is this so important? It's so important because that's how you communicate love to someone. If I'm sitting across from you and you speak Spanish and I just speak English really loud, really loudly.
Yeah, which is what we do when we travel. Yes.
Does it work?
It never works.
No, because the question is we're not speaking the language. And so so you can't love someone when you're not speaking their language.
And we can combat this all we want, but it's not going away. We're not going to go back to turn the phones off. Let's all have in-person meetings and let's put a phone back on our wall in our house. And it's not going back. So
No.
How have you seen the digital world respond to the Avail care model?
So the digital world responds to the Avail care model. These clients are absolutely affirming every step that we take to keep clients at the center of their story. So everything we do is based on clients' expressed need. So back to COVID, for instance, when we immediately did a survey. So within the first 2 weeks, when truly people weren't leaving their homes, local grocery stores, bodegas were out of all kinds of food. We had clients who had children with asthma so you could get food at the local school, but they couldn't get there. So we sent a survey out to all of Avail's clients from the past 5 years. So these might have been people that we actually, they've been launched, they're living their life, but we were checking in with them. And so, because many of them engaged in service industries and those service industries evaporated overnight. And so as a result of that, we actually started a brand new, quite a few new avenues of care. And one of them was that we actually, for the very first time, provided direct financial relief to many of our clients. Those who couldn't pay rent, those who couldn't pay their utility bills, those who needed foodstuffs, and we would pay for those bills. We mailed out over 750 care packages to new moms and dads of toddlers, Uber accounts that enabled them to get to, doctor's appointments without having to take public transportation or walk or like all of these things. And so the digital client really responds in the same way as the in-person client. Who's responding differently is Avail. We're innovating to meet the need.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about Avail is we pivot and innovate at lightning speed. And we do that because we keep the clients.
Got to find a way to care.
Correct. And so if it's all about the client, if it's all about the person, if it's all about the family, and we're listening first, that's one of Avail's values, listen first, then we're just going to innovate tactically to respond to that. Our philosophy, our theology, all of that never changes. Our tactics, they're as good as they're as effective.
I was intrigued by my own research. Help me with this. I'll just say the number. Why is it that such a huge percentage of women don't trust clergy or the church in these decisions? And I think it's close to 90%.
Yeah, no.
Like somewhere between 85 and 90% that just say, no, I'm not going to go that direction. Why are we there?
Why are we there?
I mean, I have an opinion, having been both clergy and church.
I think we are there. We're there because we, as a church, do not believe that we need the magnanimous grace of Jesus. And so if we don't need the magnanimous grace and mercy, if we aren't in desperate need of kindness instead of meanness, of patience instead of judgment, of gentleness instead of harsh rebuke, if we don't think that we need that, then we certainly aren't communicating in action, word, or emotion that we have that to offer.
We have answers, but not necessarily grace-filled wisdom.
Or even shared questions.
Yeah.
And so women don't, and men, I'll just include the men, they're not talking either, aren't going to clergy because they don't actually expect they will receive welcome. And this is, this is why the story of Zacchaeus to me is one of my most favorite encounters that Jesus has, and one that I think really illustrates how Avail engages people. So Jesus, right, he's walking through Jericho. The villagers have all gathered because the famous rabbi has come to our town. Yeah. They're lining the streets, right? They're lining the streets, and they're wondering, is he going to stay? Is he not going to stay? Like, are we going to get picked? Are we going to be able to offer him hospitality or not? And he keeps walking. And we hear about Zacchaeus, right? Zacchaeus is a tax collector. So what do we know about him? He's a traitor. He's a thief. I think we have probably every reason to believe he's caused the deaths and the kidnappings of his fellow Jewish brothers and sisters because they can't pay. Because they can't pay. So Rome isn't going to not be paid.
Right.
They're going to get paid.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and so this is Zacchaeus. And so he climbs up into a tree because he wants to see Jesus. And he's short, right? Like,
let me get a glimpse.
Going to get a glimpse. But he also climbs into the tree because of shame. Because, I mean, he's the local pariah. He is the most hated person in this town. And so he goes up into a tree. Jesus walks through the village. He's walking on the road. And everybody's wondering, who's he going to talk to? What's he going to say? And he goes, Zacchaeus. Well, I mean, Has Zacchaeus ever heard anybody call him by his name? I don't know. I bet he's been called many things
Many
and maybe
things.
not his name. And Jesus says, come on down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to your house.
Yeah.
Okay. So what doesn't he say? He doesn't say, hey, Zacchaeus, so convenient. The whole town is gathered by the side of this road, and now's your chance. I'd like you to go person to person and repent and tell them everything that you've done wrong against them.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that.
Mm-mm.
And in the hearing of the crowd, he says, I'm going to your house. He gives him the esteem and the honor in a culture where hosting,
Huge.
huge, big deal.
Yeah.
So not only is Zacchaeus not Jesus's guest, that would have made more sense.
But Jesus is his guest.
But Jesus is his guest. So what does Jesus do? In front of all of these villagers, he elevates Zacchaeus.
He graces him.
Correct.
And the grace changes him
Correct.
to say, I'm going to go do the right thing.
Correct.
Right.
So change erupts out of magnanimous grace.
Mm-hmm.
Change doesn't earn grace.
Right.
And we just see that. I mean, this is just one, but read the Gospels, every page of the Gospels. That's what you see. And so I give back 4 times everything that I've ever stolen. Okay, so grace has, salvation has come to this house, for he's a child of Abraham. Okay, and what is recorded in the Gospels? The consternation and the disgust of everybody watching this.
Right.
So why does somebody not talk to a pastor? Is because they don't think they're going to encounter Jesus. They think they're going to encounter the villagers.
Yeah. And that spreads not just to clergy. We're not just throwing clergy under the bus.
No.
The
Correct.
church in general
Correct.
is perceived as,
Correct.
That's probably not the place I'm going to be safe.
Right. And here's the thing. If there were people at the side of the road who understood they were as sinful as Zacchaeus, they actually wouldn't be filled with consternation. They would say, oh my goodness.
Look what he did for him.
What's he going to do for
I'm
me?
not that bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there'd be a chuckle and there'd be like, I'm following him. As opposed to consternation. So that's why I think, when Jesus says, I've come to call the sick, for the sick and not the healthy, he's not saying to the Pharisees, you're not sick.
Right.
He's saying to them, you don't know you're sick.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, the same place in Luke 7 where the woman comes to wash Jesus' feet, and the writer tells us Jesus knows what they're thinking.
Correct.
They're thinking, if he just knew who was touching him, and then he just immediately, and that's where he says, those who have been forgiven much love much.
Correct.
And, she shows ultimate trust in putting herself in a position where publicly something really bad could have gone down to even have her stoned. And instead she's like, this is all I got.
Right.
And he turns around and says, you're free.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing.
And she offers him, Jesus, all the hospitality
that they did.
That the Pharisee was he was intentionally being offensive.
Mm-hmm.
These were standard protocols of hospitality.
Yeah.
And none of it was done intentionally to send a message like, I know who you are, I know what you're about, but okay, I'm going to host you.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is saying she did everything you were supposed to do.
Right. And plus she's touching me. Big deal. What's the future for Avail?
Oh, my vision is that Avail catalyzes a grace saturated, person-centered countercultural movement that allows women, men, and families to be welcomed into havens of hospitality so that no one faces their unexpected pregnancy alone. I think there can be a transformation of people's experiences of unexpected pregnancy and abortion loss, and the welcome that we can provide if we can catalyze this kind of person-centered care I think it would leave all of us changed, actually. All of us changed, because that's what love and welcome and hospitality does.
How would you, if you were shipped off by some publishing group and they said, Chris, we don't want you to get off this island until you've written this book, what would that book be?
Oh. It would be a book about the freedom and life transformation that happens to all of us when we are willing to be honest about our need and about the incredible capacity for love and service that each one of us has bearing the Imago Dei, and that all of our lives can be imbued with profound, world-changing purpose. And obviously, I would use my experience at Avail. I helped start Avail back in 1992, these 27 years of experience of seeing the transformation that has happened across all of Avail's stakeholders, not just those who choose to participate in our programs, but those partners, those sort of referral partners, people that we work with that help provide that comprehensive care for housing and applying to college and health care and, financial literacy, all these things that we provide. As they've been a part of Avail and serving people, their neighbors, they've been changed. As investors have heard the power of what their dollar has, the life transformation that their investment has created, their life has changed. As they understand the warm welcome and the love, no matter what, that we give, people start realizing, oh, this area of my life that I haven't told anybody about, I can actually walk in honesty about it. There's people for me. It would be filled with those stories. That story that our common humanity and our common place of being beloved by God will unleash just tremendous transformation in our communities.
Yeah.
That's local and specific and attainable, because what are we called to do? To love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. Loving our neighbor is not complicated. We all know what it means to be loved. It's just hard.
Yeah.
And so let's call people to do the hard, life-giving thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love, again, 1 Corinthians 13 says, we see through a glass dimly at best. So that's why he says faith, really, really good. Hope, really good. Love, it's the greatest, because you don't know everything.
No.
And you can be a sage on the stage, but what we need is more guides on the side who are going to walk with people. And just stop thinking you've got it figured out.
Yes.
And even if you know how to have an answer to somebody's problem, walk with people through issues, not through people with your issues.
Yes.
And that's just...
people aren't problems.
No. They walk with them. So just to finish out, how can people get connected with you, get connected with Avail? Tell us how to go about those steps.
Sure. So if you are in need of Avail services, if you know someone who's in need of Avail services, we would welcome you. Just go to availnyc.org and you'll see all the different ways that you can access care.
Okay.
If you are interested in learning more about Avail as a partner wanting to join us in this work, then just follow the website that's listed.
We'll put that on the bottom and put it in the show
bottom.
notes. That'd be great. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.